country considering tried as many countries done before I start uni again. So yeah, kind of doing two different areas of Asia this week. One being Central Asia, which had started before with Kazakhstan. Now we're on South Asia, starting off with a more predominant one on the South Asian continent, which makes up the majority of the Indian subcontinent, with India. So yeah, it's like I've got a bit of script to go through, so yeah. Here we go. I guess like I was kind of starting off with history, as Indian history is kind of as old as history of man. As there's artifacts dating back as far away as 500,000 years ago have been found. There is like India's history is and culture is ancient, dynamic, and begins with the beginning of human civilization. As it kind of began with a mysterious culture along the Indus River and in farming communities in southern lands of India. As like the history of India is one punctured by constant integration and with migrating peoples, and with the diverse cultures and surrounding India, and placed at the centre of Asia kinda, as the history of India is a crossroad of cultures from China to Europe, and the most significant Asian connection with the cultures of Africa. So yeah, as it's not just a set of unique developments of in a definable process, it can be many ways a microorganism of human history itself, as there's like so many like a large diversity of cultures all imprinting on the people there, being reforged into a new and syncretic form. As like a timeline can begin, to be sure, for around 3000 BC, of the ancient Indus Valley civilization and the Harappa civilization from 1000 AD, of the Chola dynasty of the ancient history of India. So yeah, it's like I'm only going to briefly go over it, but like as likely be going on forever about the history of India. So yeah, it's like, and I've managed to condense it down quite a bit. So yeah, and the history of India begins with the birth of the Indus Valley civilization, such sites as Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and Lothal. Now Lothal is also a planet in Star Wars, for those Star Wars Rebels fans out there. And the coming of the Aryans, not to be confused with like the Aryans of Nazi Germany, as Nazi Germany, as those at the head of the National Socialist Party of Germany, are a right bunch of twats, pardon my language, but they are. And these two phases are usually described as the pre-Vedic and Vedic period. Pre-Vedic and Vedic periods, and it is in the Vedic periods that Hinduism first arose. And this is the time to which the Vedas are dated. And in the 5th century, large parts of India were united under Ashoka, another character from Star Wars, Ahsoka Tano. Yeah, who was formerly the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars, and then a rebel during the Galactic Civil War. Yeah, he also converted to Buddhism, and it is this reign that Buddhism spread to other parts of Asia. This is in the reign of Maurya, that Hinduism really took shape, that fundamentally informs religion down to the present day, as successor states were more fragmented about it. As Islam first came to India in the 8th century, and by the 11th century had firmly established itself in India as a political force. In the northern Indian dynasties of Ladhis, Tughlaqs, and numerous others, whose remains are visible in Delhi, are scattered elsewhere in northern India, were finally succeeded by the Mughal Empire, under which India once received large measures of political unity. And the European presence in India dates to around the 17th century, and it is in the latter parts of the century that the Mughal Empire began to disintegrate, paving the way for more regional states. And in the contest of supremacy, the English emerged as victors, and they were marked by the conquest of the battlefields of Plassey and Buxar. And then a notable thing happened, which was the rebellion of 1857 to 58, which sought to restore Indian supremacy but was crushed. And with the subsequent crowning of Victoria as Empress of India, the incorporation of India into the empire was complete. And successive campaigns had the effect of driving the British out of India in 1942-47, as we just fought the World War, and we were in no state to keep everything stable and all that. So yeah. Which also and when India gained its independence, it also went through a thing called separation with Pakistan and Bangladesh, formerly known as Eastern Pakistan. But yeah. And moving on to the language. One of the main political issues in Indian politics is the problem of language. As after India's independence, the government decided that the official language of India will be Hindi, as Hindi belongs to the family of Aryan languages, and the speakers of other languages, especially the Dravidian languages, and so the decision to attempt to erase language cultures. But the Indian constitution had declared that English can also be used for official purposes, as Hindi has at least 13 different dialects and is the most commonly spoken language in India. But the reason Hindi was chosen to be official language of India wasn't because it's the most commonly spoken language in India, but because it had connections with Indian history before predating independence and all. And before its independence, most of India was a British colony, and before the British were the most dominant empire of North India was the Mughal Empire, as the Mughals were Muslim, and the invaders who arrived in present-day India from present-day Afghanistan. As the official language of the Mughal, of course, was Persian, as Mughals, like other residents who lived to the west of the Indian subcontinent, named India as Hind or Hindustan, rather than after the river Indus, which flows in the present-day Pakistan. And the language spoken was Hind, was called by them Hindi or Hindustani, as the language of its script is based on the ancient Indian language called Sanskrit. And most of the sacred books of Hinduism were written in Sanskrit, and the script is called Devanagari. Sorry if I mispronounced anything. And some of the Mughal family members were great patrons of poetry and music, and from there on, slowly, developed a Hindustani poetry based on the Hindustani language, which used words from Arabic and Persian, and was written in Perso-Arabic script. And the language was called Urdu, as Urdu was also replaced Persian as the language of the Mughal courtiers, and so they developed two languages with different writings, but with actually one language when spoken, except for the higher vocabularies, and as for example rules were entitled in Urdu, languages Shah, Nawab or Nizam, while in Hindi they were called Raja or Maharaja. Among the Hindustani speakers of northern India, Urdu became the language of the Muslims, while Hindi became the language of others. After the collapse of the Mughals, the British Empire became rulers of North India, as the British introduced English to India and continued using Urdu for official purposes. But nationalist Hindus demanded that the British change the official language from Urdu to Hindi, which was written in Indian script, and even Hindus whose mother tongue was not Hindi supported this argument. The debate between the Hindus and the Muslims continued right up until the independence of India, and against the stand of two different languages, two of India's most notable leaders, Jawaharlal Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi, supported the idea of one Hindustani language which could be written into both forms. But when British India was divided into two countries, India and Pakistan, Muslims who got Pakistan made Urdu their official language, and as the Indians made Hindi there, with Devanagari script as their official language. But the debate over the official language didn't end up with choosing Hindi with Devanagari script as the official language. Neither debate occurred because of this decision. And one problem with connecting was connected to the different dialects of Hindi, and the second problem was connected to other language which exist in India, to this present day in fact. As the first problem was which dialect of Hindi it was the right Hindi, as Hindi has at least 13 different dialects, and some of them completely different from each other. One reason was related to the fact that India is called Hindi in many languages, spoken west from it up to the Middle East. Muslim invaders of India, like the Mughals, came from these regions, called a language spoken in Hind as Hindi, as Indians also began calling their languages as Hindi. As other reason which concerns to the fact that Hindi has so many different dialects is related to the independence period of India and the debate of the official language of India. As most of the Indians belong religiously to Hinduism, and they preserve Urdu, written in Perso-Arabic script as a Muslim language. Before the independence of India, the Muslims supported the continuation of Urdu as an official language of India, while the Hindus supported Hindi. Now, in order to secure Hindi's position of the sole official language of India, the political leaders convinced the North Indians to claim that they speak a Hindi dialect. So different dialect speakers were put together in the Hindi-speaking category by the British bureaucrats. And after India's independence, when Hindi was chosen as the official language of India, different Hindi language speakers began demanding official recognition of their language. As Maithili and Punjabi speakers also demanded to recognise their languages as separate languages from Hindi. And of different Hindi languages, only Punjabi got the recognition, as other Hindi languages are considered dialects of Hindi, and their status in the different status of Hindi isn't clear and is interpreted differently by different parties. And the official Hindi is based on the dialect which is spoken in the Delhi Agra area region, with Sanskrit vocabulary, while the popular Hindi spoken by a majority of Indians is based on this dialect, and is also affected by the different cultures of India, mainly the Hindi cinema based in Mumbai, formerly known as Bombay, in West India, and includes many English words. And among other language speakers in India, the decision to choose Hindi as the official language was an attempt to raise their cultures, and after struggles, political violence, and passive, the central government decided to allow the state government to pick the official languages and recognise constitutionally other language of India. Now the Indian Constitution recognises at least 18 different Indian languages. And one of the meaning of the constitutional recognition is the right to use any of these languages for government service examinations. But in reality, it isn't always possible to be given in the examinee, as the different states of India have different official languages, some of them are not recognised by the central government. Some states have more than one official languages, as Bihar in East India has 3 official languages, Hindi, Urdu and Bengali, which are all recognised by the central government, but Sikkim is also East India. East India has 4 official languages, of which only Nepali is recognised by the central government. Besides languages officially recognised by the central, which don't have recognition, and their speakers are running political struggles to get this recognition. In a way, as stated earlier, that the central government decided that Hindi is the official language of India, and therefore it has also the status of the official language in the states, each of the states and all that. Another language that has the official status in all the states is English. So yeah. Now moving on to legends. Now there's a few out there. As most Indian myths and legends have been derived from 2 of its epic poems, Mahabharata and Ramayana, as well as from the ancient Hindu texts, Puranas. As the stories in the books can excite, enthrall and frighten readers at the same time, and as there's mystical creatures to unshakable curses. And here we go with a few of them. The first is Kali Yuga, and in Hinduism there are 4 distinct epochs or yugas, which are currently living in the 4th stage called the Kali Yuga, at the area which started in 3102 BC, when Lord Krishna left Earth for his heavenly abode after the great Mahabharata war and was beginning the degeneration of human civilization. The ancient Hindu texts of Puranas characterize Kali Yuga as being dominated by avarice, hatred, intolerance, lust and corruption. In this dark age, the average human lifespan is the shortest, lasting about 70 years, and in the first era of Satya Yuga, the life expectancy was as long as 4,000. It's where some of us would love to try and make it to 4,000. Then there's Sheshanaga. Sheshanaga is a cosmic serpent who believed to support all the planets in the universe on its 1,000 heads. As Lord Vishnu, protector of the universe, is often pictured lying down on Shesh's body, and it is said that every time the divine serpent uncoils, the creation of life takes place, but when he finally calls back, the world will cease to exist. As Shesha, which means the one who remains, is the only one who will continue with when everything else in the universe is annihilated. This is why Shesha is also known as Anita, which translates Anata, which translates into infinite. Then there's Madhavi. As Madhavi is a female character of Indian mythology who bears male children, all of whom go on to become warriors, and she also has the power to restore virginity after every birth. As Guru Dakshina, offering to a teacher after completion of one's education, Gola has to find 800 white horses and with black ears for his guru Vishwamitra. This brings him to King Yayati, who hands over his daughter Madhavi to Galava instead. As the latter then gives Madhavi 3 different kings, who turn to finish him with 200 horses each, and finally offers the 600 horses to Guru Vishwamitra along with Madhavi. As feminists, I have argued that such legends have constantly reinforced the justified patriarchy in the Indian society. And moving on, there's the goddess Durga. As at the same time, Indian mythology also had a female, like a first warrior goddess, like Durga, who is a destroyer of evil. But Durga is also to be kind and nurturing, like a mother figure when she needs to be. And in the eastern states of India, like West Bengal, the Hindu festival of Dussehra is centered around the legend surrounding Durga, as the celebrations commemorate the homecoming of the goddess after defeating the buffalo demon Mahishasura, who was blessed with a gift that no male could ever kill him, which makes it better for the ladies if he's ever annoying. Then there's Ram Setu Bridge. There's Adam's Bridge is most commonly referred to as Ram Setu Bridge. Connects Pamban Island to Rameshwaram in India and Manar Island off Sri Lanka. And according to the Hindu epic Ramayana, the bridge was built by Lord Rama's Vanara, or 8-man, army to help him rescue his wife Sita, who was a captive under Ravana, the king of Lanka. Now moving on to the Valmiki's curse. As Valmiki, the author of Ramayana, is honoured as Adi Kavi, or the first poet, and there's a fascinating legend below that he has comprised the first ever Indian Shaloka, or couplet by accident. One day the sage witnessed a hunter shoot down a male bird with his arrow, unable to spare the partner's demise. The female bird, too, dies of sorrow, and consumed by rage and grief himself, Valmiki put in a curse on the hunter, which he unconsciously uttered in a poetic metre. As later that day the Lord Brahma appeared before Valmiki and urged him to write a story of Lord Rama, and the very metre and verse epic poem Ramayana came to be. Then there's also Matsya. As with many other religions and cultures, Indian mythology also mentions a great flood, which once threatened to destroy earthly existence. And it is believed that Lord Vishnu appears in the form of a fish called Matsya to save the world when his deluge took place. However, some ancient texts also suggest that the Matsya was an incarnation of Lord Brahma. As the legend suggests, it says the tiny fish approached Manu, the leader of the human race, pleading him with him to save him from a big fish, and in return, the aquatic creature promised to protect the earth from the impending flood. And heeding the request, Manu put the small fish in a pot, and day by day the fish grew bigger and bigger until it had to be placed in the ocean. To save himself from the deluge, the fish asked Manu to shelter in a big boat with his family, and also instructed him to take various animals, plants, and 7 wise sages on board with him. The legend has intrigue as it has many similarities with Noah's Ark over here. Then finally there's the legend of Mahabalipuram. Sorry if I mispronounced it, I am really trying. As Mahabalipuram is a town in the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu. Facebook this time. Renowned for its group of monuments, which is renowned for its group of monuments. The legend of Mahabalipuram states that were 6 other temples that stood alongside the famous Shore Temple, which was during the 8th century. And the tablets is scaring me, as the so-called 7 pagodas were so beautiful even gods became jealous of it. And this caused Lord Indra to instigate a storm and submerge the entire city underwater, except for one temple. And during the Boxing Day tsunami of 2004, century-old sediments were removed from the ocean floor, and structures suspected to be the remains of a submerged temple were revealed again. And now on one last thing. Although legends are done, and I would generally stop there, but I would like to bring one thing up, especially as it is kind of a relevant thing still. It's just, it does make, as there is discrimination around it and all that, like this caste system. Same friendly snapshot this time. And yeah, India's caste system is one of the world's oldest forms of surviving social stratification. It is a system which divides Hindus into a rigid hierarchical group based on their karma or work, and Dharma, the Hindu word for religion, but can mean duty as well, and is generally accepted to be more than 3,000 years old. Yeah, it's really, many people are trying to combat it. And was also one of the options for the Law and Society coursework we did, which I did chose and all. So for the coursework it was either legal theory, and it's the other one I was considering was also legal theory. Yeah, it's there were a few others. Yeah, I've really lost track of it. And it's and the caste system came around when, Manusmriti is widely regarded to be the most important and authoritative book on Hindu law, dating back to about 1000 BC. And acknowledges and justifies the caste system as a basis of order and regularity of society. And there's caste system kind of divides Hindus into 4 main categories, like Brahmins, Hachirias, Vaishyas, and Shudras, and many believe that the groups originated from Brahma, Hindu god of creation. At the top of the hierarchy were the Brahmins, who were mainly teachers and intellectuals, and are believed to have come from Brahma's head. And then came the Kshatriyas, or the warriors and rulers, supposedly from the arms. And the first lot went to the Vaishyas, or the traders who were created from the thighs. At the bottom of the heap were the Shudras, who came from Brahma's feet and did the menial jobs. And then there's also Dalits, which are also untouchables. Sure, we'll probably get to that in a minute. Now, and the Dalits are below that, like Shudras and all that. And the main castes were divided into about 3,000 castes and about 25,000 subcastes, each based on their specific occupation. And then, outside all of this were the Akuts, or Dalits, which I mentioned before, which were the untouchables. And as for centuries, the caste dictated almost every aspect of Hindu religions and social life, which each group occupying a specific place in the complex hierarchy. As rural communities were long arranged on the basis of castes, the upper and lower castes almost always lived in segregated colonies, and the water wells were not shared between them, as the Brahmins would not accept food or drink from the Shudras, and one could marry within their own, and traditionally the system had bestowed many privileges on the upper caste while sanctioning repression on the lower castes by privileged groups, and often criticised for being unjust and repressive. It remained virtually unchanged for centuries, trapping people into fixed social orders from which it was impossible to escape. And despite the obstacles, however, some Dalits and those in other lower castes, such as B.R. Bedkar, who authored the Indian Constitution, and K.R. Narayanan, who became the nation's first Dalit president, have risen to hold prestigious positions in the country. In independent India, the Constitution banned discrimination on the basis of caste, and in an attempt to correct historical injustices and provide a level playing field for the traditionally disadvantaged. And the authorities announced quotas in government jobs and educational institutions for scheduled castes and tribes, and the lowest in the caste hierarchy in 1950, and by 1989 quotas were extended to include a grouping called the OBCs, which stands for other backward classes, which fall between the traditional upper classes and the lowest. In recent decades, with the spread of secular education, the growing urbanisation influence of caste has somewhat declined, especially in cities where different castes live side by side, and inter-caste marriages are becoming. My tablet was just scaring me as it just froze. In certain southern states and in the northern state of Bihar, many people began using just one name after social reform movements. Despite the changes, though, caste identity still kind of remains strong. The last names are almost indication of what caste that person belongs to. In recent years, there have been demands from several communities to be recognised as OBCs. In 2016, there was a violent protest by the Yat community in Haryana, and the Patel community led by huge protests in Gujarat in 2015, demanding access to caste quotas. Both are prosperous and politically dominant communities, but they support the they support their demand for caste quotas by saying large numbers of their communities are poor and suffering. And some say the caste system would have disappeared by now if the fires were not regularly found out by politicians. And at elections, many caste groups still voted as a bloc and are wooed by politicians for electoral gains, which may not always work. And as a result, which was originally meant to be a temporary affirmative action plan to improve a lot of underprivileged groups, has now become a vote-grabbing exercise for many politicians and all. Which isn't always the best thing, as we are humans and we all want the best, as we don't really want to be living in poverty and all. And and I'll see you all later on for news and all. So bye for now.